Hi, I'm Meta Spencer. Today I get to talk to an old friend about something of great interest. He's been making, well, I should tell you who he is. It's Walter Dorn. He's a Canadian military historian and defense specialist, and he teaches military officers and I guess also civilians occasionally at the Canadian Forces College in Toronto and also at the Royal Military College of Canada in Kingston. So I've known, my goodness, Walter, how long? 35 years? 40 years?
Yeah, it's closer to 40. It'd be in the
Probably really
83 or
40
so
because
when we
you were an
first met.
undergrad. I think you were an undergraduate when I met you in chemistry, right?
True enough.
And things changed. All right. Okay, so I want to talk to you about this new adventure of yours. You have made, I know what one of the things that you've done in the past is you work, you're very interested in promoting peacekeeping. And so you've invented a lot of new things for the United Nations to develop. And in the past, I know you developed all kinds of new ideas for technologies that peacekeepers could use that would make their job a little easier. And now you have a simulation, which is sort of like a game, or maybe you think it is a game. I don't think it's a game, but I don't know what you call it. It's a simulation anyway, to teach peacekeepers. So tell me all about it, friend.
Sure. Okay. Great to be with you, Meta. I remember the early days of Peace Calendar and
Yeah,
the origins of Science for Peace.
yeah.
I've had the honor of representing the organization Science for Peace since 1983.
At the
And
UN, right?
at the
You are
UN, right?
you're our honcho in New York.
The UN representative, right? So I started going to the UN in the early 80s, and I liked it so much. I was at the special session on disarmament in 82 with a million people marching from the UN to Central Park. And
I was
uh,
there. Yeah.
okay, super. And so this was a signature moment for the peace movement as well as for my life, actually. And so I decided to see how I could use science and technology for peace. And over the years, I worked on arms control and then peacekeeping, and then looked at satellites. I wrote a book about satellite reconnaissance, and then peacekeeping became really significant feature of the international community. It really expanded, and I decided to look at technology and peacekeeping, and worked for the UN and for the U.S. government and for the Canadian government, and was appointed gratis personnel, which means a freebie for the UN, so I could work in New York for the Office of Information Technology, um, Information and Communications Technology. So that led me to think about new ways of using technology for peace.
Mhm.
And one of the ways was to create video games. And I've been so familiar with the war fighting games, the video games that so many teenagers and others play, where they're shooting each other. I thought, what about having an avatar who's not a war fighter, but who's actually a peacekeeper? So
Mhm.
that was the origin of the idea. I suggested it to the UN. I got positive feedback, and the UN gave me tabletop exercise that they play in one of their courses called the UN Military Observers Specialized Training Materials course. And I took that material and I gamified it. So we tend to call simulations things that are more serious, that are trying to be realistic and teach real lessons. And games is more for education and for edutainment, as we say. You can
Yes.
educate and entertain at the same time, so
Uh-huh.
that there's a lot of the typical tropes of games where you try and gain points or uncover treasures and things like that. So this current simulation is more of a simulation than a game, but we are developing games as well. One for mine rescue, that is rescuing civilians from minefields and other types of games. One involving the climate change and looking at the effects of climate change on peace operations. Another one on technology and peacekeeping.
Really?
So these are all
Oh,
things we're playing
are
with.
you working on one like that now on climate change and technology?
Yes, indeed. Yeah. Yeah. It's being developed for a course in CMR Saint Jean, which is a part of the Canadian Forces training. And that's on the way that climate change can affect peace operations, the local population, and the conflict dynamics. So we're exploring that through the simulation.
Mhm.
The simulation on that we have launched that is now available for free for anyone to play. It's just launched 2 weeks ago in Vicenza, Italy, at the Center for Excellence for Stability Policing that the Carabinieri in Italy run. And we launched it there at the meeting of the International Association of Peacekeeping Training Centers. And I'm happy to show you a few scenes if you like, and we can get a
Oh
sense of
yeah, I
the.
want to see that in a minute, but tell me, you're already ahead of me in terms of describing the institutions because I don't know much about how peacekeepers are trained these days. I know that Canada used to have this wonderful outfit in Nova Scotia where they train peacekeepers, and they shut that down a few years ago. So, how are peacekeepers trained in general? Do the countries that send them, every country sends separate contingent of troops or something, I guess. And do they train them before they send them off, or how are most peacekeepers set up for the job?
Right. So the UN has standard training materials that the training centers around the world, peacekeeping training centers, use. And then they also add their own courses and own flavor to it. So you have the basic training for a soldier or for a aviator or a sailor, and then the you get specialized training on peacekeeping. So there's core pre-deployment training, and then there's specialized training materials. The one that I'm working with is on UN military observer training, and they're done at training centers. There's over 50 of them in the world today.
Oh,
And
really?
the Pearson Peacekeeping Center, which you mentioned, was one of the first. Actually, the International Association of Peacekeeping Training Centers was founded at PPC in Nova Scotia in 1995, and they celebrated their 30th anniversary this year in Vicenza, and the PPC was prominent. A picture of the PPC and the first conference was shown on the big screen. Unfortunately, the PPC ceased to exist in 2013, and Canada is not living up to its peacekeeping reputation or to its promises that we would make major contributions to peacekeeping. We've made that in international fora, and it's one of the disappointments of my life to see that Canada is not living up to those promises. And one of my career objectives is to try and get Canada back into peacekeeping.
Well, I know that's what you spend half your time doing, apparently, because you are really the gadfly going around reminding people every now and then that we used to have a major part of the military was devoted to peacekeeping, and now it's hardly anybody. How many peacekeepers does Canada have nowadays?
Approximately 30, 20 military and 10 police. At one point, we had 100 times that number.
Mhm,
So we had 3,300 in 1993. During the Cold War, we had for 40 years about 1,000 peacekeepers, sometimes a lot more, deployed on the field. And we were the number one peacekeeper during the Cold War.
mhm,
So it's really a shame that we've gone down to less than 1% of our former capacity, our height in 1993.
mhm.
And peacekeeping is something that Canada helped invent. We
Yeah.
proposed the first peacekeeping force in
Mhm,
1956 under
mhm.
Lester Pearson, and it really is associated with Canadian identity and with Canada's reputation. So we still have a positive reputation for that, and there's still a lot of gratitude for the work of the Pearson Peacekeeping Center. I still hear about it, but we're not making any efforts
Well,
now
is it
to
true
get
that
involved.
globally the interest or the involvement with peacekeeping has diminished? Is it that Canada is just sort of reflecting the general attitude of people caring less about peacekeeping than before? Or are we uniquely stupid?
Well, not uniquely. In the 1993 and in the early 1990s, the developing world and the developed world, that is the global south and the global north, they contributed equal numbers of peacekeepers. Then the peacekeeping declined because there was more peace after the mid 1990s for about 5 years. And then there were new conflicts that started in the new century, and the number of peacekeepers rose actually to record highs, 106,000 uniformed personnel. And in that increase, Canada did not contribute to the increase, it hardly contributed at all. We never went anywhere near where we were before or what we promised.
Mhm.
And at the same time, the Western countries didn't contribute in general either. So we were seeing that it was the global South that was taking the burden of providing peacekeepers, although the majority of funding was coming from the global North.
Mhm.
And a lot of the logistics and support was from the global North, but the people who were putting their lives on the line were from the global South.
Well,
So we've
you
seen
what
that
you
since the
work
turn of the century.
you work with military people all around you. You're right in the middle of it. And how do they look upon peacekeeping? Is this considered something like, oh, a sandbox operation that a good he-man, a real macho guy, wouldn't be very proud of participating in? Is that the notion that this is a baby activity?
There are some people who feel that way, and in the US military, that's a predominant attitude. But there are lots of Canadian military personnel who would love to go on peacekeeping. I have
Really?
them come to me and saying that they're trying all different ways to be able to get on missions, but there's so few opportunities. I
Mhm.
also teach a course on peace operations, and I get soldiers and aviators and sailors from all different countries trying to learn about peacekeeping.
Mhm.
In addition, there's a whole new generation who have heard about peacekeeping and they say, well, how come we're not doing it? How come we're not doing it anymore? And so the general feeling in the military is that this was something that we once did,
Mhm.
but that it would be a lot of extra work to get back in at that level. We were once, you could say the best peacekeepers in the world because we really knew the UN system. But right now we've fallen so far out of touch that it requires a huge effort to be able to learn the UN system, to learn how to operate in the field with peacekeeping rules. And it just seems to me there was a lack of innovative spirit to relearn those lessons, relearn the institutions and the bureaucracy. And we just basically think that we've got enough on our plate that peacekeeping is a task too much.
Well, but I know you have actually been sort of in charge of peacekeeping operations of some kind. I remember you were in East Timor when they were having their independence war, right? And this was, well, I don't know whether to call it a war, but whatever
It
it
was,
was a big challenge. And
it was, you could
what was your
say,
role there? I know that
I was a
you've been to other
district electoral
peacekeeping.
officer,
Hmm?
district electoral officer.
Yeah, and but you really had responsibility for peacekeeping too, or protecting people
It was
anyway.
a peace operation. Our main objective was to give the people of Timor the ability to determine their own future by having a referendum. And in
But
that public
that was
consultation,
not run as a peacekeeping operation. It was just trying to support the fairness of the election. Is that it?
no, it was actually a organized referendum run by the UN,
Uh-huh.
and we were registering people. We were there at the polling stations. We would set them up,
Mhm.
and the Indonesian government gave us permission to run that referendum. And when the referendum went in favor of independence, 78.5% in favor of a free and independent East Timor, then the Indonesian military took revenge on the people, and there was a reign of terror for about 10 days until the Australians intervened with an international force that Indonesia accepted because they were under pressure from World Bank loans. And then Timor was 2 years under UN governance before it was elected its own president and parliament. And then it got independence and became the 191st member of the United Nations.
Well, thanks for refreshing my memory because I had it all wrong. Sorry about
All
that.
right. Yeah.
My memory is not what it used to be. But now, how many folks like you are there still in the Defense College or Royal Military College and so on who could give training in peacekeeping?
Well, there are many aspects of peacekeeping that are common to general military operations. So there's lots of people who can do that. On peacekeeping specific tasks, that is primarily mediation,
Mhm.
negotiation, security, and disarmament, demobilization, reintegration of ex-combatants, that sort of thing. There's probably two or three professors who have experience with that and who have taught it in the past.
Mhm.
So unfortunately, there's not great pool of expertise. I wish there was much more, so that we could share and have our younger generations learn about the joys and the travails of peacekeeping.
Well, maybe one of the things that we can do is try to encourage people to put some pressure, political pressure behind the government to do more of that, because that's really the kind of thing I would like to see Canada actually put our heart and soul into. Anyway, let's not get hung up here because I want to show people a little bit about your simulation, but tell us about it a little bit first. Tell us now you got funding from outside the UN to develop this thing. Is that right? And
Yeah,
yeah, the technology that you use is looks like I don't know, somehow it's been drawn or something. It doesn't look like photos. What is the kind of application or
right.
platform or thing that you use to create these images?
So the engine we use is called Unity. It's the most popular engine in the world for games. And we buy assets, and we also create models. So I have modelers and software developers who work on what you see. And then we also have a script writing team, which helps develop the script for the simulations. And the funding has come a lot during the COVID period from the Canadian government to fund students, particularly fourth year students or third year students who were completing game design programs at Sheridan College or George Brown College or now Humber College. And those students spend some time and work with us on peacekeeping simulation, and several of them stay on for years afterwards and help with development. And we do get some funding from the Department of National Defense. And I'm always looking for more funding so we can do more things. But we're quite excited about the various projects we're doing. But the biggest news is that we released one that's now available. It's being published online and can be played for
Mhm.
free at the site peacekeepingsim.net.
Okay, well, I actually played a little bit of it, and maybe you can, if would you mind putting it on screen share so that we can
Sure.
play maybe 5 minutes of it, or maybe sections from two or three of the different portions, because I see some of them are take place in a military base, and then some of them seem to take place. The images show cows and things like that out in the field. And so I'd like to see both. Okay, now this looks
Sure.
fairly realistic, but a lot of them don't. Uh,
Yeah, we also didn't want to get hyper realism, so that we wanted to keep this learning experience. And at one point, we actually had a jungle, which was fascinating to pursue and listen to the birds and go and see the foliage of all the different trees. But we decided to have something that has an element of realism, but at the same time is fairly useful for learning purposes. So
Now,
under
wait, hold on.
peacekeeping,
I want to hear that helicopter is it? Do they really have helicopters that look like that? Because
sure.
that's prettier than any of the helicopters I see flying around in reality.
Well, yeah, the Chinook helicopter is used quite a bit in peacekeeping. When Canada deployed to Mali, we provided Chinooks to the UN. Of course, the standard is a Soviet-designed Mi-8 helicopter, which was flown by Ukrainians and Russians and other nations. It's the workhorse for military operations. But the Chinook is played, and it is a pretty amazing aircraft. Can hold up to 40 soldiers at a time, and you can
Oh,
drop them out the back door, and it's very versatile.
okay. Is that a woman? That I'm
Yes,
looking at that
that's
peacekeeper there.
correct.
You know,
Yeah,
you have a chance for people to choose their avatar.
correct.
So,
Yes.
you know, two or three different looking avatars, and one was a female. So I chose the female. Did you do that just to be nice to me? You chose
No,
her?
it's the player chooses. So you'll see the website is peacekeepingsim.net, so anyone can play it. And
Yeah.
if you go under Play Now, and we have as your choice of avatar a choice of different male gender and different races. The simulation is played on peacekeepingsim.net, and there's an option for play now at the top. So you can see this on the screen sharing that I'm doing. We can make it full screen, and we can press any key to continue. There's an end user license agreement, and then you do scene select. In the scene select, we have the scenario for the simulation. First of all, you're incoming military observer. So you have a brief with the chief military observer. Then you do preparations for travel and a meeting with the chief military observer. Then you go through a checkpoint. You do the actual investigation. It's done like a murder mystery. So you have to figure out what the clues are and point out who committed the massacre. And then you're hot on the trail to find further evidence. And you're able to explore in a cave and find somebody who had been taken part in the massacre. And then you report on it. You do a UN military observer report at the end. So let's start it. We'll go to the brief of the chief. Normally it takes about half an hour to run through the simulation, but of course there are many branches, so it could even be double that. But I'll do it all in about 5 minutes, if that's all right with you.
That sounds good.
So here's your avatar selection. We'll take this black woman, for instance.
I am Colonel Karen Van Dorn, the Chief
Now you
Military
have
Observer,
the
or
chief
CMO
military
of the
observer
UN
who's
mission
giving an
in
induction
Karana.
briefing.
In this induction briefing, I will describe the conflict on this troubled island and overview the UN's mission. Karana is a country
It
in the
uses the
mountainous
scenario
continent
of
of
Karana
Asia,
from the
which is
United
just east
Nations
of the Horn of
Specialized
Africa.
Training Materials.
Karana has 8 provinces. As reported by Karana communities,
And we have
the
a
ELF,
rebel
in
group that
collaboration
goes
with
across the
6
border
splinter
into
groups,
Karana,
have attacked
and
and
it's
raided border
going to
villages.
attack
The
a
United
town
Nations
called
deployed
Boxel.
UNAC to monitor the
And you're
ceasefire,
looking at what
help
the
the
UN
peace
mandate
process,
is to
and
monitor
assist the
and
Karana
assist the
government
government in
with the
protection of civilians.
This past month has seen an upsurge in tension. As UN military observers or UNMOs, you are at the center of the mission. The mission's organizational chart is as follows. The head of mission is a civilian, the special representative of the Secretary General. For the assignments, Lieutenant Colonel Kenai, you are team leader for Team Site 12.
That's your avatar is
Your team
Lieutenant Colonel
site is in the
Kenai,
province of Lepko, near the
and you
village of
have
Boxo on the
your
Ramosa border.
base
Lepko was
at
once
Team
the
Site
model of
12.
interdependence. As UNMOs, you will often serve as the initial investigating authority for be forewarned, things may not be what they seem. You must figure out the conflict dynamics in your area. Beware of
Sound
extremists.
could be a little louder.
Process.
Okay, let me see if I
At the same time, you will need to deal with them as they might be. We have arranged for you to travel to your team.
So then the next scene is you're coming into your base, and I'll increase the sound volume as I get into that base. And here you are able to control with your mouse the direction of your camera, so you're now more alive. It's not just a presentation, but we're still keeping you along a certain path. I can do Shift W in order to do the turn into a run, and then I come into this this office.
Welcome to Team Site 12, Lieutenant.
So here
Colonel
at the team
Kenai.
site, you get some
Let's
briefings,
run through
and
some
there's a
of the
variety
things
of
to do before you make your
things
first
you'll
trip
learn
outside.
about. Where do you get your situational updates? That kind of thing. You got to go to a joint operations
Good
center.
idea.
Ask them for it. It's given by the Department of Safety and Security. You get the update. You also get the training materials. That's what this this material on the left is from the specialized training materials for UN military observers. And I'll skip this part here and go into back to settings. Increase your audio a little bit. So we'll just increase the volume and go back. And then I will skip on to the next scene so that you can get a very short review. Here we're going to the next scene. You're actually going out on patrol. And you are coming across a checkpoint. And here you have complete control. So here's my avatar. And I will start walking her in a direction. And I go to my armed escort. UN military observers are unarmed, but the escorts can be armed. So this is what we have here, a case. And then you can decide how much force do you want to show. Let's say you go at the same time as the escort, so you're bringing the armed escort. But here I can control the avatar by pushing W, so it moves in the direction of the camera. and I'll go towards the bridge here.
Hello. We've been expecting you, blue
So you
helmets.
have a resistance
Inkosi Debuter
from
knows you'll help
a
investigate the
armed
ELF
guard,
attack.
and
We'll
so
drive
you
you
have to
there.
deal with how to deal with that diplomatically at the same time without giving any kind of credits or you submit to the will of the gangs because they could be misleading you. So this is going through the bridge scene. If you complete that, well, we'll do it very quickly here.
As you wish.
I'll just tell you a little bit about the
Follow me. The Inkosi has
talk a
ordered
little
me
bit
to
about the
escort your
status
team.
of forces agreement.
It is for your own safety.
What governs the mission's freedom movement, and you've successfully passed through the bridge, and you can continue your way on to the village. And the village is where most of the evidence is gathered. And in the village, you have the evidence, and you've got to gather that by being quite intelligent about
Come
who
on.
to
Let's go immediately
who
to
to
Inkosi Debuter.
interview, what to look
He's
for,
waiting for you.
and at the same time, you don't want to alienate the people who are
Very good.
trying to lead you in one direction. And so in this case, you're following them, but at the same time, you'll see that someone along the way
Please help.
has
Yesterday,
evidence.
the ELF snatched away my husband and children. They also looted my
I'm warning you, woman, you should not speak.
So then you have to decide about engaging. So in this case, we'll say we'll get back to her,
Please speak to me at my home.
and we move on, following the guard, and we'll
Don't
find
believe a
somebody
word
else.
that liar and thief says. Ibeli's boys steal rice and yams from other villages, and there isn't much to go around.
So you have some contradictory evidence. So I'll skip over this
Yeah,
part here,
sure you will.
and we'll go to the
Come,
next
let's
scene
go to the chief
where
himself.
you get the ability to follow up your evidence that you've gathered in the village. Village scene is the largest one, and when you are gathering evidence, you have to go into a cave, which where one of the people who attacked the village is
Stay back.
there, and you learn more
I don't
about
want
what
to hurt
happened.
anyone, but I won't hesitate to fire. Maybe so, but I still don't trust you.
So you have
I
to
don't
have
want to let you-
dialogue. I'm selecting dialogues. You'll see there's a score on the top right. You also have a bird's eye view. And so now we'll just enter into the cave. This is using standard WSD keys or the arrow keys for forward, backward, left, and right. And once you enter the cave, you have the ability to interact with one of the fighters who actually did attack the
I
village.
spoke briefly with Latif. Latif said some troubling things.
And so you have a
Never
wide
thought I'd see the
options. And in this
Damn
case,
the beauty.
we'll just cut that short just for the purposes of the short demonstration, and we'll move out of the cave and back to the armored personnel carrier. You'll have gained a lot of information about what happened in the village for your report. So once you get back to the APC, you can look around more, or you can say return to the team site and write the report. In the report, you have to give the evidence that you found. And the evidence is done in a typical fashion for a UN military observer report. Our team received a report that the village chief alleges that the CISC attacked Boxo. We headed south, and after about 10 kilometers, we reached a bridge where the further access was halted by a group of, we'll put 3 armed individuals. So this is being filled out by the people who are completing it. We determine it likely that children have been abducted during the attack on Boxo. And there's true and false questions about the cow pen.
Hold on, Walter. What I'm guessing is that this is the test of how well we learned something from going through all this.
That's
right?
correct.
This
Yes.
is our final exam, or at least
Yes, it is the test, and at the same time, it's also the UN report. So in the simulation, you're writing a report, but you'll see that we actually get a score. So here's true and false questions. And then there are photos that have been gathered when you're meeting with the village chief, the body bags you've seen, the evidence gained at the cow pen, the interviews with witnesses, the dead body you found in a well, and the evidence gathered in the cave. And then you have to report on restrictions imposed by parties because the UN is not supposed to have restrictions. And then you have your results. So you say that the team received a report, and in green is the correct answers, and in red is the wrong answers or the blank answers. And so you'll see that here you have answers, and at the end you do get a score. So for the field performance, I skipped over the vast majority, so it's a very low score. And report is just 5 out of 37 possible points for a total of 4% for this originator of the simulation, going through very quickly. And we have an idealized report and some of the credits for the people who developed the simulation. And that is what we get to when we exit the simulation. And we are back to this web browser, having learned a little bit more about UN peacekeeping.
Well, okay. Now we can turn it off and I can look at you again.
Right.
Yeah, okay. Well, this is, I'm not sure what to make of this. Is this, do you expect this to be used for training real peacekeepers?
Yes, it is being used to train real
It is
peacekeepers.
being used, okay.
About
But I
half
was
dozen
thinking,
nations.
you say it's available, so anybody who wants to play, I wouldn't quite call it a game, but it's, I don't know, equivalent to crossword puzzle or something like that, where you test yourself by seeing if you can figure out the answers by going through. I guess it's like a game.
We call it a simulation to distinguish from games, which is much more emphasis on entertainment. But we are also developing games which emphasize the fun. But this is done more to be aligned with the UN training materials and to be done as a simulation that simulates reality.
Would anybody else be likely to want to, well, commercially, could you sell this thing? Would it be something that people would like to do just for fun?
So we have made it available for free for anyone in the world who has an internet connection to play it. We are developing some simulations that we may very well commercialize in order to get back some of the funds. The huge amount of funds have been invested in this, and we want to get some of that back. They will be more gamey than this simulation, but sure, anyone can play it in order to learn more about what peacekeepers do. And it's done like a murder mystery, so that there's some intrigue, and it's typical of a conflict, particularly in Africa, and you have to be able to figure out the conflict dynamics. So that's part of writing that report, is figuring out what exactly happened and who's responsible for the massacre.
Do you think that there are any university professors who would like to use it in their course? I mean,
yeah.
I have never taught a course on peacekeeping, but I've done other things on, negotiation and nonviolence and things like that when I was teaching. And I don't know, I can imagine using something this as like a home assignment or something. Yeah.
Right. So I use it in my courses when I'm teaching my peace operations course, and students can play it over any number of times to be able to get the highest score or to get learning from the simulation. You can go in various different directions on the simulation. You can learn lots of things by exploring new areas in the simulation. You can move around and look at the mountains or go around the village. So it has a fun element to it. But it's primarily done to be aligned with the UN specialized training materials. So it's not as gamey as could be, but we are developing ones that will be much more gamey and that will be presumably for sale. We haven't confirmed that yet, but in order to recoup some of the money that I've invested in this, I hope to be able to sell some of the games in the future, and they will be less like a simulation, but more like a game where you have to use your dexterity of your hands, and you have to go through hoops, and you have to get treasures, and you have to, that kind of thing that's typical in a game.
I think most game players expect to run into surprising outcomes. In other words, if you make the wrong decision and you're in one of those shoot 'em up games, there's a guy comes around the corner and blasts you, and
Uh,
and you're dead. Or there's a giant squid that falls from the sky and flattens you, or something. Or
yeah,
a lawnmower comes and runs over you immediately if you make a wrong decision or something. So it's more action oriented. So
right.
this is not exactly. I mean, these guys in here are acting with great circumspection. The peacekeepers that you showed there are playing by the rules and acting like almost courtly in their demeanor.
Right. Yeah. So that's why we call it a simulation. But the game would be much more fun. We call it edutainment. It would
Mhm,
be mixing entertainment with education.
mhm.
And the game, we have one that we're working on, which is exploring how to do demining. And you could blow yourself up if you don't use the proper procedures or if you're careless. We have flails and we have plows, which you can use to take out mines. But most important is your prodding activity as a deminer. So we introduce people to what the humanitarian demining is like. And part of that game is to rescue people from a minefield. So
Yeah.
there's a time dimension. You have to do it quickly, otherwise they can't stay there forever.
Yeah. Okay. Okay, that's interesting. Had anybody ever done this before, or did you invent the whole notion of simulating and gamifying it?
Well, I mean, when I had the idea, I was around when I was working on the expert panel on technology and innovation in UN peacekeeping. The idea was new. There are some other people who have exploring this area. One was a group in Ireland. They did gaming for peace, and they did one that was a game that was really two-dimensional, not like you can move in an open world. And it was also really about the proper behavior of any multinational force, so not specific to peacekeepers, although it was a peacekeeping setting. And it was really about proper gender sensitivity in that. This one is more about the actual conditions in the field of peacekeeping. So you could say that to mimic the reality of peacekeeping, this is the closest that's been produced so far.
Mhm.
And I hope that there are many people who start to develop peacekeeping simulations because we really need more. We need people to learn what peacekeeping is and what the peacekeepers do in the field. And I think for some people playing all the warfighting and shoot 'em up games, this could be a really good learning experience and also a fun one where you do something a little bit different. Rather than shooting an enemy, you're trying to bring enemies together so that you can come to a peace agreement and you can investigate the atrocity and find out the truth.
Yeah, okay. I mean, I have no personal interest in ever playing one of the violent video games, but this is a little different. It would be good for 1 or 2 hours of playing. Uh,
Yeah, it
uh,
typically takes half an hour to play through it, but if you want to explore all the avenues, it could
uh,
be an hour easily.
uh-huh. Okay, that's great. Okay, well, this has been fun. Where are you going with this? You're going to try to sell it, right? Or try to, uh,
No, the simulation that we now have online is offered for free. It's a world service. We have offered it to the United Nations. We're waiting for the UN to accept that offer. It's now being played in peacekeeping training centers in about a dozen countries. So they use it in their UNMO courses and other courses. I just came back from Colombia, where for the past 2 months they've been using it. And the International Association of Peacekeeping Training Centers had their meeting in Vicenza about 2 weeks ago. And at that meeting, this simulation was launched publicly and made available to those training centers. So this is a kind of world service, but we do hope that the games in the future that they may be some ones that we can sell, and that way we can recoup some of the investments, and that also there'll be a different audience that will want to play it, and they'll be available on um, markets like Steam and other things where gamers go to in order to find new games.
hey, let's explain to the audience how, if they want to go play this game, how they could access it.
Sure. So this Peacekeeping Simulation 1, which is called Investigating Atrocity, is accessible on the website peacekeepingsim.net. And you'll see there's a button there for play now, and then people can actually get the same screen that I just demonstrated to you, that they can play it at any time with an internet connection. And if their internet connection is slow, or they're worried that it might sort of break, then they can download the simulation and play it on their computer, any PC or Mac. And it isn't available yet on phones, but cell phones. But we were looking at making it available on Android and Apple phones too.
Now, this thing was in English. What's the case with real peacekeeping training? Is everything done in English, or do you have peacekeepers speaking a variety of different languages?
You do have a variety of languages. When I showed this to the UN, they gave me the initial materials to gamify. They said they wanted it in English and French because those are the working languages, the two working languages of the UN. There are 6 official languages of the UN, and we plan to make it also available in Spanish. After I demonstrated in Colombia, I saw a need for that. So we'll also have a version in Spanish. However, most peacekeeping training is done in English because English is the main language used in mission. So there are even people who said we prefer that we have our soldiers and military officers try it out in English so they learn more English. But we'll give an option so that it's playable in Spanish as well as French. Right now it's English and French.
I never thought about it before that, of course, the United Nations has all these different languages and official languages and whatnot, but I never even questioned the language that is used for real peacekeeping operations. Is it always done in English, or is there a political question? Are some countries that provide peacekeepers interested in getting some of the operations run in their own language, or what is there any big issue about language choice?
Sure. So English is the link language that's used by the peacekeepers. However, some missions are in French or Spanish speaking countries. And there is a desire to have people in those missions who can speak the local language to interact with locals. So there will be people learning Swahili to go into some areas of Africa. And English is the base language, but there's a need for other languages in mission, especially when you're dealing with the local languages. So there is a desirability to have the simulation available in different languages. And we actually can do that now with Google Translate. We can translate almost all the material instantaneously. But of course, we want to be able to check it with a professional translator to be able to make sure the translation is satisfactory.
Well, I've heard or read recently about new developments in the technology of translation that we'll be able to, I don't know whether they're earpieces that you put on or not, but let's say you're a peacekeeper and you're going out and you're talking to somebody whose local language is some dialect of Swahili that even the main Swahili speakers can't understand, that, some unique thing. I guess theoretically you could put hundreds of different systems of languages onto the system, and people out there could go. Let's say they're going up to the bridge where they see the gangs stopping, and they've got to negotiate with these people. It sure would help if they could speak their language. And is that
already
in
available?
The cards?
Yeah, no, it's already available. You do have automatic translators. Some of them can do it simultaneously. I've communicated when I was in the field with people using Google Translate even. So there I had to do it sequentially. They would speak, and then I would see what they're saying would be written out, and then I would select the language that I wanted to hear the translation from, and I could speak with people who I have no knowledge of language, and they were speaking in their language, and it was purely by voice because the Google Translate was taking their voice. So that's available now and can be used in the field. And certainly we can incorporate that sort of thing into the simulation itself.
How many languages does Google Translate offer?
Oh, I think dozens of languages, probably over 100.
No kidding. Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's wonderful. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm really looking forward to that. Only travel will be a piece of cake now, won't it?
It definitely has made it my life much easier when I do that.
Uh-huh. That's wonderful. Well, this has been fun, and
Yeah.
I wish you every success with it. And I hope I'm looking forward to one. Maybe have you thought of making one with these new um, visuals? I think there's a company called or an outfit called Sora or that's not the title, but it's something close to that that is brand new, and they can take a picture of you and make you into the avatar. We'd be sending Walter Dorn out to negotiate with these guys,
Yeah.
and you might arrive in a parachute if you decide that you want to land at that bridge in a parachute. They can easily have you do it, or you whatever.
Yeah, we
They
explored that too. We actually have a lab where we digitized. You can also get a series of pictures from people, and then make an avatar that looks like them. So that's quite easy to do, and we've already done that. We don't want to do it for the particular simulation we have now because we want to keep it simple on the learning points. But that's all possible that you can have avatars that look like you.
Okay, I want you to make an avatar of Meta Spencer going out into an African village and negotiating with the guy who's trying to kill the mother and the child. And I would love to have a movie of myself, except the thing is that I believe very strongly that anytime you produce something that could be taken seriously, that people could believe and could be deceived by it, that it has to
Mhm.
be labeled very carefully so that
Absolutely.
people in every case should know that it is a fake and that it's not real, because I think we're being deceived intentionally and maybe not so intentionally. I know on YouTube, I watch a lot of YouTube, and they put up stuff now that is obviously fake, but but sometimes you're not so sure. So
Right.
I don't.
Yeah,
I think that's an important thing to establish
absolutely.
as a general rule. Does
Right.
the does the UN expect that, or are there any standards for making sure that people are not taken in by these potentially misleading visuals?
Well, that's a much broader subject of artificial intelligence, and international affairs. There are, of course, national rules, there's European rules, and there's general laws against misrepresentation of individuals. So, yes, fraud and other things would be covered by some laws, but it's a very big patchwork, and the whole international community needs to come up with new rules and treaties to govern this. But it takes us way out of the domain that I originally came to speak about, which was peacekeeping simulations. And of course, there are possibilities, but we have to be aware that using AI, as we can really expand much more into AI if we want to, that has dangers as well as benefits.
Yeah, I'm more than aware of some of the disadvantages. Very good. Okay, I think we're through, friend. It's been fun.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
carry on. I hope it all succeeds.
Right. Thank you. Good to be
See you
with you,
again
Meta.
soon. All
And
right.
thanks
Take
for
care,
your
Walt.
service.
Bye.
Bye.